Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm taking a look at my current wheel setup that I currently use, plus have used for the last nearly 3 years, and that's the Thrustmaster TS-PC Racer. Give you a little background. Prior to this, I owned a Thrustmaster TX. I had that for about 2 years. I then upgraded to this one. Now been running this for about 3 years. And over those 3 years, it's been hundreds and hundreds of hours, if not in the thousands, from racing, iRacing, Race Room, Assetto Corsa, ACC, AMS2, pretty much all the sims at one point or another. So I figured now that I'm doing these videos on YouTube, I might as well give my opinions on this. So to get started, let's just quickly run off some of the specs and kind of touted features of this wheel. So it does come with a 40-watt brushless motor. It is capable of 6 Newton meters of torque. It is a belt-driven wheel similar to Fanatec Clubsports and CSL Elites and the lower end Thrustmasters. It's capable between 270 to 1080 degrees rotation. That said, I almost never change it off of 900. It is marketed as metal construction, which is half true and half not. I mean, some of it, like the top here and the bottom where it mounts, is metal. Other parts of the casing are plastic, so it's not a full metal construction. That being said, it's solid. Like I said, I've had 3 years now. I had some DIY rigs and wheel stands I used it on prior to getting the SimLab rig I currently have. Now I have it on here. It's never been an issue taking it off on and off things. It's a good solid base. One thing I do like about it coming from the TX, where TX had some reported heating issues. I had never experienced that myself, but I also had turned the fan to always on mode just to be safe. With this, where I didn't need to do that, there is a fan inside as you would expect, but the cooling in this, there's 2 vents along the top and then big vents along each side. So plenty of ventilation and cooling capacity. The fan will ramp up in use, but it's fairly quiet. I mean, in a silent room like I'm sitting right now, if it was running, I'd hear the fan, but racing, whether with VR on or headphones or even just speakers, you can't notice the fan noise. And it seems to keep it cool. I never really feel any fade to the force feedback. Seems to be pretty constant. Another marketing feature they have is the turbo power brick, which is just a power brick in the shape of a turbocharger. I can bring it up here. As you can see there, shaped like a turbocharger. It's a little bit goofy, but ultimately it's just a power brick. In my case, it's down behind the computer at a site, so I don't really care what it looks like. Beyond that, in terms of setting up the wheel and everything, it's pretty standard. 2 bolts on the bottom. Most, if not all, rigs from SimLab to GT Omega to Fanatec or anyone else typically have Thrustmaster bolt patterns already there. For instance, I've got the SimLab run right now. The GT1-Evo, I should say. The bolts right there, no modifications. Thrustmaster is pretty much across the board will be pre-supported with any rig you got. And if you have a DIY rig or something, like I said, it's 2 bolts. Pretty simple to measure out where you need to put some holes in and get it done. On the driver's side, I'll bring up. This is the Thrustmaster control panel. If you've ever used another Thrustmaster wheel, it's identical to those. In this case, you can go up to 100 or 1080 degrees, like I said. But that being said, I never run it. I never have it set to anything other than 900, except in the case of if I play one of the F1 games, which don't automatically change it for you. So I set it appropriately for those games. Every other sim automatically changes it, so I leave it at 900. Under gain settings is where you have the rest of your settings. I pretty much leave this all at default, except spring and damper I turn all the way down. But even then, I've left it at default 100%, and it doesn't seem to make a difference. Most of that stuff's controlled in-game anyways. So, not too much to adjust here. Some people will turn the overall strengths up. And I've done it. I find you just in turn have to turn the force feedback strength down in game, and it, to me anyways, I haven't noticed much difference one way or the other, so I leave it just at default. And then in the middle you got the test forces where you can just test some things out, as you can see there. I never really use that for anything though. So that pretty much wraps up just the general overview of the wheel and the specs and everything. So I'm going to jump into iRacing, talk a little bit more about it as I do some laps, and I'll bring you along for it. So I'll be right back. Alright, we're back now. Just about to get on track here in the Porsche 911 RSR at Sebring. Just do a lap or two here quick to just talk about the feeling of the wheel, what I feel driving. Got the other camera set up so you can see it a bit, though in a lot of cases I'll be feeling things that you can't really see. Like right now, feeling kind of the road texture, some bumps a little bit. Not enough to jolt the wheel at all or anything, but it's there. And that's one thing with this wheel is there's no real dead zone at all. So getting on the straight here, if I put the wheel right at center, I mean, it's definitely not as strong of a feeling. But if I let go of the wheel there, you'll see it move. Like, it's definitely moving. There's definitely forces. You feel the bumps and stuff. So there isn't any real dead zone. Once you turn the wheel a bit, the forces definitely get stronger. But again, no real dead zone in it. Which was a step up from my TX at the time when I had that. I wouldn't say it had a complete dead zone at all, but you can definitely feel more when you're at the center with this wheel than you could on that. So that's one nice thing. One thing to speak of in terms of just the road texture and the finer kind of bumps you feel and whatnot when just driving like this. This is still a belt system. It's still 6 Newton meters. It's not 15 or 20 or 25 that you get in a direct drive wheel, so you do have to turn up the minimum force a little bit in order. If you keep that all the way down, you do lose some of that detail. But with that turned up, I have it at like 2.8%. With that turned up, it's still, so if you can feel it, and it doesn't take away from anything else really. So as we come into here, a little bumpier. Whoop. So as I went over those big bumps in the middle of the turn there, got the car loose, but you could see it jolt the wheel there. So when it comes to the bigger bumps, the curbs and everything, you clearly feel it all. No issues with any of that. As you can see it there. Moving the wheel around in my hand. when you start getting loose and stuff like that, I mean, you can start to feel it. Now I'm running regular iRacing force feedback here, so see, let's go over the curbs. Definitely feel it. Feels like you think it should, and you feel with a decent amount of force. Really, I've never used a direct drive wheel, and obviously they're gonna feel stronger. I know that, but at the same time, I've never kind of felt this was lacking, so to speak. So, and over smoother curbs like that, you feel the, you're not going to be able to see it in the video, but you feel the finer rumbling of the curbs, no problems. Just past them, but those concrete kind of slabs in the track, as you go over them, you feel not a super strong, but you feel the difference as you go over that from the pavement onto the concrete. And I'm using the iRacing force feedback, as I was saying here. I have played around with the IR-FFB. Kind of replaces the iRacing force feedback. I do like that better. It does feel better, and it's just to speak, I'm running iRacing right here, but of course every game's force feedback will feel different no matter what wheel you're using. But with IRFFB especially, you can, and to a degree with iRacing, but more so if you use IRFFB, like you can really feel the tires loading up through this. It gives you fine enough detail to feel that. With the iRacing one, you don't so much feel the tires loading, but as the car gets loose, you can feel it in the wheel and work to correct it. It's not like the car just starts spinning and you're not feeling anything through the wheel at all. So all in all, in terms of feeling, like, it's tremendous. I've never had complaints with it. I've never felt like I was lacking anything while using this wheel. I know, yes, there's better out there with direct drive, and even in terms of belt driven, there's the Clubsport 2.5, which is a little stronger than this. But I've never felt like I was lacking anything with this. And overall, over the years, in all these races, I've been super pleased with running this wheel. And that's all there is to really say about it. So I'm going to cut this off here, and I'll be right back with my final thoughts. Okay, so just to wrap up my final thoughts here, and I'll try to keep this quick. Would I recommend the TSPC to anyone out there looking for a new wheel? And that's an absolute yes. 3 or 4 years in now, I've got absolutely no bad things to say about it. It's been all positive experience. When it comes to actual driving, feels great. The responsiveness, considering it's belt driven and not direct drive, is solid. The feel for the road is solid. The power at 6 Newton meters is really good. And it's just an overall really good wheel. Like I said, between this and the TX I've had before, I've now had 6 years of Thrustmaster wheels with 0 issues reliability wise. I've never had to replace a part. I've never had to send it in for repairs. I've never had to replace the wheel at all. Everything's always worked, from the wheelbase to the rims to everything else. So yeah, while I see on forums and Reddit and everything, there are people with complaints, my personal experience has been just tremendous reliability from Thrustmaster products. Other than that, really, what are the comparisons if you're shopping for a wheel? In this kind of consumer oriented, belt driven kind of level wheel, really you're looking at Thrustmaster, Logitech, or Fanatec, most likely. So Logitech really doesn't compete head to head with the TSPC. Really, in the Thrustmaster lineup, something more along the lines of the TX would compete directly with the Logitech wheels. When it comes to the TSPC, it is definitely more expensive than the Logitech wheels, but with the belt-driven system and everything else, the ecosystem, the swappable rims, I mean, it just doesn't really compete. Logitech isn't really a comparison there, but like I said, it is a little more money. Logitech, you get the pedals, you get the shifter and all that in the package for a cheaper price. But when it comes to the wheel itself, it's not a comparison. From the Fanatec side, really the direct competitor would be the CSL Elite to the Thrustmaster. I haven't used the Elite, so I can't comment on the actual driving with each wheel. But really can just kind of compare price. As you can see, I've got the Thrustmaster up on Amazon right now. The TSPC is at $700. That's American on Amazon.com, which I believe is kind of inflated right now with COVID and everything else, inflating all the prices. Because I spent that much Canadian when I bought mine. Where right now Canadian it's selling for like $900, so it's definitely selling for an inflated price right now. But that said, if you can compare directly to the CSL Elite, this is, I think, actually $100 more than buying directly from Fanatec for the CSL Elite. But you gotta keep in mind that's direct from Fanatec, so you're gonna have shipping charges, taxes based on wherever you live, and possible duty fees based on wherever you live. So obviously the final price is going to kind of depend on where you live, but it's going to be fairly similar. So just straight up, they're probably roughly about the same price when you're looking at buying them. The difference comes in two things: the ecosystem and availability. So one, availability wise, Thrustmaster, like Logitech, you can see I've got it up here on Amazon. You got Best Buy, Walmart's, you name it, a ton of different places in Canada. There's a chain called Canada Computers. Like I said, you name it, they're probably selling Thrustmaster products. Fanatec, it's a lot harder to come by. A lot of people order direct through Fanatec. There's at least in Canada, very few. There's one retailer I know carry Fanatec products. In the US, I can't speak to it, but I do believe it's not a ton of retailers you can buy or find selling Fanatec from. So a lot of people have to order directly through. So there's the availability aspect, where Thrustmaster, the rims, the wheels, the pedals, a lot easier to just go out there and buy it. And when it comes to the ecosystem, obviously Fanatec and Thrustmaster both have their ecosystems. Again, I haven't used Fanatec. Everything I've seen, they do seem, especially when it comes to rims and stuff, do seem like nicer, higher end stuff than the Thrustmaster rims. But while the wheelbases cost a similar price, if you are looking to add other rims and whatnot to your system, Fanatec, you're going to pay a much higher premium than Thrustmaster. Thrustmaster rims and everything else come in a much more reasonable price. Their shifter, they do have a handbrake that's got a partnership with Sparco, so it seems to have driven up the price on that. That's a little unreasonable, the price for that. Otherwise, Thrustmaster stuff is all across the board quite a bit cheaper when you're looking to add to the wheelbase you bought. So depending on your budget, keep in mind, you know, the ecosystem. And it's easy to, when you're playing out, just say I'm getting the wheelbase with this rim. Myself and a lot of others in this hobby can say you might start out thinking that it's very easy to go down the path of adding another rim, adding a new set of pedals, a shifter, a handbrake, and so on. It is a slippery slope once you get into it. But really, those are the things to consider if you're looking between the Fanatec and the Thrustmaster. And I encourage you to go out and watch reviews on the Fanatec as well, including comparisons of people that have used both. Again, I'm not going to compare them as I have not driven with the CSL Elite. But just on the TSPC's merits alone, again, I fully recommend it. It's been a great wheel to me. As you can see, I touched on the open formula rim that mine came with. I don't believe they sell that as a package anymore. You gotta buy that rim as a separate add-on. And nowadays you see it here, comes with the Ferrari rim. I've not used this rim, but it does look pretty solid. The rim itself looks a lot like the 599X, which I really liked. And then the button plate's a little different, but that's what it comes with now, which quite frankly, a circular rim that come with the wheelbase is probably a good thing. A little more versatile in what you want to drive and different styles you want to drive. And then adding a formula rim after is probably the better way to go. But if you were to own one and only one rim, circular is probably the best way, because you can jump in the rally, you can jump in the rally cross or drifting, even something like Mazdas that have a much higher turn radius. Circular rims will work, and then obviously they'll still work with your formula cars and everything else. But that's really the one I can find now. I've been searching different sites. I really can't find the open wheel formula rim package anymore. But I'll leave it there. And again, 100% recommend the TSPC if that's what you're looking at. And that's it. So I will see you all in the next video. And if you like this video or find it helpful, please subscribe and like it. And I'll see you all next time.